Good morning, everyone. Let's reconvene our 10 o'clock hearing at 10:45. Hello, everyone. Please, let's convene our 10 o'clock hearing now 10:46. Councilmember Tyler Dos Santos Tam, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
It would be my honor. Thank you, Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, while you're at it, could you please introduce your guest with our message of aloha?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce Maggie Domingo, affectionately known as Nana Maggie, who is an exceptional leader in our Filipino-American community. She has had a successful career as a business leader, as the voice of our Filipino radio station for decades, and as a travel agent. Throughout the community, she's demonstrated a passion, a spirit, a zeal for supporting our Filipino community and supporting those in need. She was elected as the first female president of the United Filipino Council of Hawaii in 1990, and she's enhanced that council and many other Filipino organizations through her very loving and welcoming spirit. She's been an icon of inspiration to many generations within our local Filipino community. And with Filipino Independence Day coming up in just a few days and the celebrations coming up next weekend, I thought it was fitting to welcome her here. So Nana Maggie for the message of aloha.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Kami Waters, members of the council and staff, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Tyler Dos Santos Tam for inviting me to participate in today's meeting. My name is Maggie Pasion Domingo, a Filipino-American community leader who loves Hawaii and its people. I believe Hawaii is a special place, and every day we are surrounded with opportunities to make a difference in our community. We are always given a chance to choose kindness. That is what the word aloha means to me. I think aloha is more than just greeting one another with a hug or a smile. I believe that it is truest form aloha can be an action word. Aloha means working together for a common cause. I was born in Waipahu 90 years ago, 91 to be exact, this coming September. But when I was only 6 months old, my parents took me back to the Philippines and raised me there, and it was not until 1957 when I returned to the islands. In Hawaii, I found a generous community who was always ready to welcome me and give me solid support in all my endeavors. Whether that aloha was expressed in food or a kind word or a hug, I was always surrounded by people who embodied the spirit of aloha. I remember particularly the late Caridad Avesilia, who graciously invited me to a meeting of the Filipino Women's Civic Club many years ago. That first meeting got me started on my community journey. This year marks my 64 years of my community involvement in Hawaii. I later became the first woman to become the president of the United Filipino Council of Hawaii, the umbrella organization of Filipino associations in the state. And today I continue to volunteer for causes and values that are important to me. And it all started with this feeling called aloha. But we have to go deeper than just feeling. We have to take this positive energy and convert it so others can benefit. Whether it's volunteering to a beach cleanup or mentoring the next generation, we need to give of ourselves. This is the least we can do for the blessing of living in paradise. It is a gift that we give to our community, but that gift will keep on giving. This is what aloha means to me, and it means serving others. And with service comes joy. Mahalo for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much. And so nice to meet you. And happy birthday come September on 91 years. Members, unreal. Thank you. You know, I do have some procedural announcements to make before we start. I do want to thank everybody for being here, and I absolutely want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. I am asking, I think I know why most of you are here. If you can confine your comments, I think probably best suited in either Bill 10 or Bills 33 or Resolution 23-109. It's going to be a long day, members. And again, I just ask everyone to treat each other with aloha. As Auntie just said, you know, treat each other with respect. It's okay for us to agree, to disagree, but let's try not to be disagreeable. Again, I want everybody to get a chance to speak their mind, their mana'o, and in a respectful aloha Hawaiian way. I also have a procedural announcement again. It's the same announcement that I made at the 9:45 meeting, so bear with me, it's required by our rules. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide an oral testimony on all items on the agenda, either in person or in the council chamber or remotely. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and the agenda item they are testifying on. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 3-minute presentation on all public hearing and new business items and a 1-minute presentation on all other items. Registered in-person testifiers will be called first. When your name is called, please proceed to the podium and begin by stating your name and the item you will be speaking on. When I call for anyone who has not registered to speak in person, please line up to the right of the podium, and when it is your turn, proceed to the podium. Begin by stating your name and the items you'll be speaking on. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone will then be called. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. When I call for anyone else standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand button to indicate your desire to speak. The following are some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceeding on Olelo, please mute your device at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When the number is called, press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by roll call, unless unanimous. Therefore, I'll first call for objections, and if any, I will then call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating outside the council chamber, in accordance with HRS 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot convene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily sign out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Council members and members of the audience, the following items have been canceled and will not be considered. On page 5, CC 155, Council Communication 155, the report of the Permitted Interaction Group established by Resolution 23-40, CD1. On page 18, Bills 34 and 35, tax measures for first reading. On page 22, Bill 37 CD1 from 2022 and Bill 40 CD1 from 2022, also relating to taxation. As I mentioned, we have to do that at a subsequent full council meeting. The following items were not posted on the agenda for consideration. On page 13, proposed FD1, Amendment to Resolution 23-90 CD1. On page 24, proposed FD1, Amendment to Bill 11 CD2. On page 25, proposed FD1, Amendment to Bill 12 on CD2. On page 27, proposed FD1, Amendment to Bill 10 on CD1. Copies are available at the clerk's office downstairs in room 203. Mr. Clerk, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Present.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Here.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Present.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Here.
Councilmember Tupola?
Ayo.
Councilmember Wire? Here. Chair Waters?
Here.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 members present.
Thank you so much. Floor Leader Cordero, do you have any introduction of guests?
Thank you. In addition to our city administration and members of our staff, and whom we greatly thank for their work, we also have members of the public, and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kiana, motion to approve the minutes.
I move that the minutes of the 7th session be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered or unregistered testifiers on the minutes?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you, members. We're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations to the acceptance of the minutes? Noting no objections or reservations, the minutes have been approved. Turning to page 5, as I mentioned, Council Communication 155 has been canceled. Now to page 6 from the Committee on Public Safety, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Committee Report 163 and Resolution 23-48 as amended be adopted.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Okimoto for the explanation.
Thank you. Confirming the appointment of Ms. Debbie Elenecki to serve on the Fire Commission of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Aloha, Ms. Elenecki. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to say a few words before we vote?
Good morning. Aloha kako, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiaina, Honorable Council Members, Debbie Elenecki. I want to thank you all for your consideration to fill a position on the Fire Commission. I don't take that position lightly. I feel that I can bring great value to the Fire Commission, having meaningful conversations with them, and making some thoughtful recommendations to the Fire Department, all with the end state in mind of providing improved efficiency to our public and our communities. Mahalo.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you so much for your willingness to serve. Mr. Clerk, do we have any members of the public who wish to testify?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola, followed by Kiaina.
Thank you, Ms. Elenecki, for being willing to serve. First off, thank you for answering our questions in the committee hearing. I wanted to thank you for your service as a first responder and as well through your nonprofit and then now as a commission member. To do this type of service for so many years really indicates somebody that wants to and continues to love their community and the public. So we're happy to have you on this commission. Look forward to the contribution that you're going to make. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mahalo Debbie again for volunteering her time to serve on the Honolulu Fire Commission from her trailblazing career as the first female fighter and as she worked up the ranks to serve as the first female battalion fire chief. I know that she has the mana'o and integrity to help guide the commission on the many issues that are presented before them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. When I again mahalo Debbie Elenecki. I had the pleasure of meeting with her both before and after our public safety hearing, and I really am grateful for the service that we've mahaloed you for, but just for being the example as a mom of 2 daughters. I think it's great to see Mano Ahine out there blazing trails that haven't been paved before. So you definitely are that. We look forward to working with you, and thank you for the service that you provided. Mahalo, Chair.
Any further discussion, members? See, I also want to just echo those remarks. I know your family as a family that comes from a firefighting background, and as members, I went to high school with Debbie's brother, Peter Ka'u, and I think you're going to be perfect on the Fire Commission. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
Mahalo, everyone, for your support.
Okay. Are there any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 163 and Resolution 23-48 CD1 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you again. Members, now moving to the top of page 7 from the Committee on Zoning. Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 150 be adopted and Bill 23 pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This particular measure deals with the Oahu Building Code. We're amending the building code of the City and County of Honolulu to further address fences that we have in our ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered or unregistered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you so much. We're in discussion, members. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Thank you to the zoning chair for hearing this. I would like to thank the State Department of Transportation for working with me as this relates to the state-operated airports, harbors, and maintenance yards, where security against unauthorized entry is an important factor. The main point where this stemmed from is a part of my district, which is the Honolulu International Airport. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any further discussion? I do want to note that Dawn Takuchi Apuna, Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning, is available if any of you have questions for her. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Toba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 150 has been adopted and Bill 23 has passed second reading. From the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I move that CR 159 be adopted and Bill 4 CD1 is amended relating to the adoption of the Hawaii State Energy Code pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Thank you, Chair. Relating to the adoption of the State Energy Code.
Thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered or unregistered speakers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. I just wanted to say mahalo to all the stakeholders that have been actively involved in this process. CCSR and Director Gonser and his team have been extremely helpful, and then stakeholders from the industry as well, in making sure that we're walking through a very technical bill. And so that conversation is going to continue. This is coming back to committee, and so we do anticipate additional amendments as well. So mahalo.
Thank you so much. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Tauba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
CR 159 has been adopted, and Bill 4 CD1 has passed second reading. Now to the top of page 8. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I move that CR 160 be adopted and Bill 28 pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Relating to naloxone.
Thank you so much. I do believe we have 3 registered testifiers. Daniela Stolfi-Toe, followed by Heather Lusk and Mia Lisa Otis. Mr. Clerk, is Daniela Stolfi-Toe available?
I'm here.
Aloha. Thank you so much. Welcome. Please proceed.
My name is Daniela Sophie-Powell, and I'm testifying in support of Bill 28. I realize most of you are, I think, on board with this, but I still wanted to share quick information. I worked on and off at District 1 for 8 years, as well as being the founder of 808 Viral. We've always been deeply connected to the pulse of the community. I've been in the weeds, engaged online with various community issues for many years, and have seen a lot. And right now I'm deeply concerned we are not further ahead with dealing with the fentanyl problem. I personally survived a debilitating fentanyl addiction. My addiction was prescribed a medication that I had been led to believe was safe. I did not have the disease of addiction, and many people that are having this fentanyl issue did not either. It consumed me rapidly and nearly claimed my life. After sharing my story on our platform, I was astounded and disheartened by the multitude of individuals who reached out to me, recounting their own experiences. Business owners, teachers, law enforcement officers, even teenagers. I urge you today to treat any matter related to the fentanyl problem with seriousness. Anything that comes across your desk, anything in the future. The full extent of this fentanyl impact is yet to be realized. I'm literally sitting in TMS treatments as we speak because of the long-term effects that it's had on my brain. There are things that are going to happen long after these people recover. We do not have the proper detox centers here or treatment. So anything that you guys can do and approve on this fentanyl issue is critical. And I ask that you all look at the serious impact to the mainland communities of what is to come. I hope that we all rally behind all initiatives that proactively combat the fentanyl epidemic. Hawaii is simply unprepared, and it's important that we act swiftly and decisively. And I appreciate you guys hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again. Next, we have Heather Lusk.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. And aloha, Chair and council members. I really appreciate the opportunity. Heather Lusk with the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center. And we have been pivotal to the state's response to getting naloxone out into the community. We've had 50,000 doses to be able to dispense and continue to work with the health department to do so. The reason I share that is I know that there has been some concerns about this bill and the burden it may place on our establishments. And I want to say there's a lot of community partners like H3RC that are very willing and able to provide free training, help distribute naloxone to sites, and do whatever it is to help our locations be ready. Why I know that many of us are mourning what happened at the Outrigger Waikiki over the weekend, and I don't know that having naloxone in that setting would have changed the outcome. At the same time, we know that having naloxone at bars, for example, we're looking at vending machines island-wide, and we've already gotten a commitment from Scarlett Honolulu to have a vending machine there for naloxone, and that's voluntary, that we know that it can save lives. Naloxone in bars and nightclubs have saved lives on this island, and we really want to mitigate the impact on the businesses, and the community members are ready, willing, and able to volunteer, provide naloxone, provide trainings, whatever it takes to support this very important measure that we really do believe will save lives. Lastly, the FDA should be making naloxone over the counter in the next few weeks. So this is a very safe drug. It cannot be misused. And so we really do believe that we can find a way to mitigate the impact on the businesses, but by providing more access to this amazing drug that could really be the difference between someone surviving an opioid-related overdose and not. But thank you again to Councilmember Tyler DeSantos Tam for introducing this measure and for your support of getting naloxone into sites where we might see these overdoses. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Ms. Lusk? Seeing none, thank you again. Next, we have Mia Lisa Otis. I'm sorry. Aloha, welcome.
Aloha, my name is Mia Lisa Otis. This is a very sensitive subject to me, and I support the availability of the life-saving Narcan in liquor license establishment, and I believe each establishment or business should manage at least 4 doses or even have it in their AED boxes. 4 doses because there most likely be a group of opioids, group of people. And the 4-dose mandate will give time to save more lives until emergency responders arrive. We can't stop the opioid crisis, but we can save some lives. I keep it in my purse, and I think as bad as the crisis is, we should all consider carrying it within the public. So, you can get this. I just got this from Walgreens. It's free with prescription, and this is how tiny it is. Everyone can have this in their purse, so I appreciate bringing this up to light, and I hope more lives are saved with it. Mahalo.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier, members? Seeing none, thank you again. Mr. Clerk, anybody from the public wishing to testify? Aloha, welcome. in person. Please.
I just got off the bus, so yes, I'm here in person now. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and the council members. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of Kapalama Neighborhood Security Watch in strong support. So my first reaction when I read the bill was that perhaps this enables people to feel safe when doing drugs. But I did a little bit more digging and research, and in regards to the last overdose at the Outrigger Waikiki, it did go into how the government has like a very balanced approach towards the opiate crisis, which is to provide the antidote, but to also weigh in on harsher penalties for those who abuse opiates to prevent deaths. So, because by condoning a society of drugs, I think that could be an enabling of society of laziness and a culture of you can do whatever you want. And the bottom line is I don't think that's something that's okay. So about fentanyl. It's from hospitals, and there is a reason why illegal fentanyl is being moved around underground. There should be stricter policies at hospitals and those whose responsibility it is to prescribe fentanyl. And the opiate crisis is just one of various drug problems to solve. At the state, there were many resolutions to start working groups about drugs. House Bill 1337 examines magic mushrooms, the therapeutic effect, and collaborates a working group of the DOH, the Attorney General, UH Manoa Medical School, the Senate and the House Judiciary, and the Senate and the House Health Committee. So they were all tasked in this working group to study the federal, state, and county laws as it relates to magic mushrooms and perhaps the therapeutic effects and the laws and regulations. And then also House Concurrent Resolution 202 was a resolution introduced because the Senate bill and the House bill got deferred. So opiate overdose, it involves the nonprofit sector, social services sector, health department from the state, and then also the emergency department from the city, the county police, the AG, and the prosecuting attorney, experts from health, policy, law enforcement, and social work. And it can provide a more holistic picture when examining this subject matter. You have to look at it as a whole picture instead of coming to an assumption that with one bar experience, that young people who go to bars are on opiates, right? So, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none. Anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Okimoto.
I had questions. I know one is for Director Ireland. I'm not sure who the second one is for, but if it's okay,
Yes.
is it okay to do that this time or?
Nope, this is the perfect time.
Aloha, Director Ireland. Maybe you could answer my first one as well, but if not, then someone in the gallery could help me. So the first question was, is naloxone readily available to the public and their businesses and hotels in the public? And if so, how do they get this? And if you're not the person, I'll gladly refer this to the next person, but I do have another question for you as well.
Sure. Thank you, Council Member, for that question. I'm James Ireland, the Director of the Honolulu Emergency Services Department, and EMS is responding now to fentanyl overdoses pretty much one a day now or more, heroically, and doing everything they can to save people's lives. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to save everybody. Right now, through Ms. Lusk's organization, Hawaii Harm and Reduction, anybody can access that site through their portal and request training and Narcan. So it's my understanding that anybody through that site can get Narcan or naloxone. Naloxone's the generic name today.
Okay, thank you. So you said about one a day. Is that what I heard you say, or one a week? But I'm sorry if you could repeat that statistic.
Probably for the last few weeks, EMS in Honolulu has been going on about one or more fentanyl overdose calls a day.
So in a month, it's about 30 plus.
Correct.
Okay. And where were most of these overdoses occurring? Where are the calls? I know that we asked this in committee as well, but if you could
I guess the easiest answer is all over, but people's homes, illegal game rooms, city parks, city park bathrooms, city beaches, businesses, and one business in particular was a fast food restaurant, and the person just stumbled in there and collapsed. So it was a fast food restaurant. Hotel rooms. So those are just some of the ones I can think of off the top of my head. In the last week or two, I can't think of any that happened at a bar or restaurant, but as I think we've discussed before, alcohol and partying sometimes, and most often not, but sometimes goes along with drug use and illegal drug use. And I think that was the thought, I believe, behind this bill. But in the last few weeks, I can't think of any restaurants or bars we've gone to for overdoses.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering the questions and your answers. I'm mainly asking this because I would like to see this more accessible to places. You mentioned the different places that you guys have had to take calls to, and that are more prone, or the areas around them that are more prone to these fentanyl overdoses. And I appreciate those who came on and testified. I know this is, again, a sensitive subject, especially to those who have lost loved ones. But thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, Dr. Ireland, since we have you, because you had mentioned that folks can get it from H3RC, I just wanted to check. So if they order it online, is that at a cost to them, or is that free right now, or what is that?
It's my understanding that there is no cost at this time. I don't know if it'll be that way forever, but right now there's no cost. And just as an example, if you'd like, or you can pass it along, I'll share with you what they send us or what they give.
Yeah, we got some too. We got some too. So actually, yeah, really excited it's available.
Yeah,
like that,
so far I've heard of some people maybe not getting as fast as they wanted, or maybe there's a little delay in training, but I've generally heard very positive things about access to Narcan through this website.
Okay, mahalo.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Thank you, Director, for joining us. Could you remind us of the cost, the estimated cost for a EMS call, and then also the cost for, if somebody has to go to the hospital and be taken there, and that's, of course, borne by our ambulance services, but then beyond that, just the ongoing overnight stay at Queens or somewhere else?
Sure, thank you, Councilmember. What we're seeing, and I'm not going to talk about any specific site, I just want to generalize. I personally, with our teams, have gone out and gone to 5 overdoses in the last 2 weeks with our paramedics. And again, they're going on these daily. We're talking to the survivors. We're hearing that a lot of them think they're doing cocaine. And in fact, it turns out to be fentanyl. They had no idea they were doing fentanyl. And what we've seen at the scenes, in some scenes, is they've deployed the drugs on a mirror or a plate in lines, and they're falling unconscious and even into cardiac arrest before they even finish whatever lines they've put out to do. And so my suspicion is they're dropping very quickly and being rendered unconscious. And what happens in narcotics, and fentanyl in particular, because it's so powerful, is after you go unconscious, breathing slows down, and then you stop breathing. And it's only a matter of time after you stop breathing, probably minutes, that your heart stops. And then within a few minutes after that, brain death or brain damage sets in, and then it becomes irreversible, where even if the paramedics get there, they're not, unfortunately, savable. So our thought is the earlier you can get the Narcan deployed when someone is maybe unconscious but still breathing, they can actually make a full recovery. And so they'll wake up and they'll wonder what happened. And then when you explain it to them, they're a little surprised, especially when they thought they were doing cocaine. We still recommend they go to the hospital in the ambulance, because they could, the drug is still in their system. They could go unconscious when the Narcan wears out. So we actually ask everybody who's overdosed to go to the hospital. And so the ambulance bill, which is roughly $2,000, wouldn't necessarily be mitigated if you wake up with the Narcan. But if you actually progress into cardiac arrest, need CPR, need endotracheal intubation, which is a breathing tube, when you get to the hospital, you will be admitted to the intensive care unit for anywhere from 1 day to a week or more. And that, I know I don't have a rough estimate on that, but that could be $10,000 or $20,000 a day or more in specialty medical care. So waking up with Narcan while you're still breathing, you might have an ambulance bill and maybe an ER bill, but you're not going to get a $100,000 ICU bill. If you progress to cardiac arrest and are in the hospital 3-4 days or longer, it's going to be exponentially more expensive, and really to save lives is priceless. You know, really what we're talking about here is preventing people from dying. And what really scares me is we know young people experiment with drugs. And we're talking about all illegal drugs, but it would just be a real shame if someone who's a teenager or a young adult, whether it's in school or in a club, in a social setting, experiments with something they think is harmless or relatively harmless and gets fentanyl. We also have xylazine in Honolulu now. In West Oahu, we've had at least 2 overdoses of fentanyl that was also cross-contaminated or made with xylazine, which is the horse tranquilizer that's come out of Puerto Rico. So these things are here. People, I think, don't know what they're taking. I think the legislation for the test strips that are coming will help for people who want to take that extra step to protect themselves. But, you know, this is a real problem we're seeing live right here today. And I think this bill is just one step in helping to potentially save lives in our community, as well as a lot of other things I think we can do.
And Chair, as a follow-up, so are we always able to recoup the cost of the ambulance transport?
No, we cannot always recoup the cost.
And so the city is sometimes on the hook for these ambulance rides and the treatment that the EMS providers give.
That's correct, yeah. And you know, we're going to do this whether we get paid or not, obviously, but you are correct if people don't have insurance or they're visiting. And we're seeing a mix of people who overdose on fentanyl, but it is mostly people who live here. It's a minority as visitors.
So in your estimation, the very relatively cheap cost of one of these would easily be paid for by simply, you know, somebody avoiding being intubated or having some other kind of intervention done?
I think the cost would be recouped with just one person.
Thank you. Members, any questions further questions?
Sorry, yeah, thank you, Chair, quickly. I was just curious, because you mentioned that some of the individuals that you've had to respond to have been at beach parks or city parks. Do you know typically who was reporting those? Was it members of the public, park staff, or who was finding, you know, the victim?
You know, I think one recently at Ala Park was reported by just somebody who walked into the bathroom and somebody was in cardiac arrest in the bathroom. One on Waikiki Beach was reported by a lifeguard. So it's kind of a variety of people. And sometimes the people's friends that they're doing the drugs with will report it. We're also seeing people deploy Narcan to their friends who have overdosed. And that's why we tell people, if you have a friend or family member who's struggling with addiction, not just fentanyl, but even but prescription narcotic pills. People also struggle with that addiction. They clearly should get Narcan and keep it with them. The other thing is when people go out in groups, maybe one person should refrain, you know, kind of like a designated driver, and have the Narcan, and that way if people fall ill, there's at least one person who's able to activate 911 and deploy the Narcan. It's also important to note whenever Narcan is deployed, people should simultaneously call 911 because you know, then the EMS can come. The other thing we're noticing, unfortunately, is before a Narcan would wake somebody up who overdosed. What we're finding with fentanyl is sometimes it's taking 2 nasal sprays, 4 nasal sprays, and then even the paramedics having to start an IV and giving the IV form of Narcan to wake somebody up, because what they've ingested is just, it's an overdose of fentanyl.
I appreciate that, because I know at committee we talked about, you know, whether other city staff should maybe have this, and this bill doesn't necessarily require it, but maybe we could, you know, work on getting it to park staff, right, if they want to, you know, not necessarily burdening them, but, you know, the folks that are doing maintenance and are out every day.
And that's a great point. And this morning we talked about just that internally, that who else in the city could benefit from carrying this. You know, I will say that Honolulu Fire Department and the Honolulu Police Department both carry Narcan now. They are very aggressive in deploying it appropriately. And those agencies have respectively saved lives before EMS has gotten there. So I concur that I think looking at other deployment methods where you could get it out sooner in certain areas is sound.
Okay, well, I appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero, followed by Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you. Hi, Director Ireland. This isn't relating, and first off, I want to thank Ms. Otis for bringing this up and for carrying it herself. as well as the recommended possible doses or dosage at certain establishments. And since you just mentioned that some people are having to do more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 nasal sprays, first off, does that count as a dose? The sprays?
You know, I think just having the presence of any Narcan in an establishment is adequate. I don't think we need to specify necessarily that they need 4 or 8 or 10 bottles of it. I will just note that when I started on the ambulance 30 years ago, and I'm dating myself a little bit, our Narcan we carried on the ambulance was 0.4 milligrams, 0.4 milligrams. The dose now we give is 4 milligrams.
Okay.
So we're using a dose now that's 10 times higher than it was 20 or 30 years ago to combat just the higher doses of narcotics people are ingesting to overdose. The nasal spray is new, and that's why it can be used by minimally trained public, is that it's a nasal spray, it's super easy, it's harmless. You know, they don't have to do what the paramedics did before is start the IV and give it as a shot form. So the deployment and the technology and the way the Narcan is made now has allowed us to basically expand the number of people that can save lives.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you answered my question with what I was going to get at after the dosage. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. These questions probably aren't related to you, but I wanted to put it out there. I'm going to ask a question on funding and then enforcement. And so if whoever could respond, I'm looking for maybe Liquor Commission or HPD on enforcement, but also the funding. We talk about right now, there's a program, and if you could remind me, what's the length of the program that this will be provided for free of cost? And what happens after, if the mandate goes through, what happens after that program funding is complete?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. Right now, the program is through the Department of Health. And you're right, it might not be free forever, but I just don't have the answer to that. As far as enforcement, I don't have the answer to that today as well. It may be through the Liquor Commission, but I think that's, the administration's still waiting to decide that.
Okay, is there anyone here that could answer that? Does HPD know that their name was they were brought up in the hearing, the committee hearing, or if when the mandate goes through, who's going to actually enforce this? We're waiting for administration to decide.
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any further discussion?
Chair?
Councilmember Kia-Aina.
I just actually wanted to applaud Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, EMS leadership, as well as Heather Lusk of the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center for bringing this issue to the forefront. A lot of times when you're venturing into, businesses and the private sector, sometimes it's hard. And between all of you and collaborating and making sure the businesses know that they're going to have accessibility to Narcan for free, I think it's should be replicated when we try to do initiatives like this. So I just wanted to applaud the council member. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to applaud that really good discussion. I think people need to realize what's going on. And I appreciate your candor. Okay, if there's no further discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia-Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba? Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 160 has been adopted and Bill 28 has passed second reading. From the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 165 and resolution 23-100, committee draft 1 as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say, please.
This is
Explain.
adopting a revision to our public infrastructure map for the primary urban center development plan. And this is for the Emergency Services Department. In their relocation from the airport, where we're paying a major lease of over $600,000 plus to the blood bank facility on Dillingham and Puhali. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do see we have members from EMS. Would you like to just explain to the public what we're doing here? In furtherance of what Councilmember Say did.
Sure. We have a lease rent at the airport, and we've been there probably 30 years, and it's about $650,000 a year. Our lease runs out in 18 months. We expect it to go up somewhere between $700,000 and $900,000 a year, and it makes more sense to us to relocate to a permanent facility, or at least for the next 10 years. To save the city money, because the state is no longer directly reimbursing the city for EMS services. So it seemed prudent to save money. We went on about a year-long search for an adequate property that was big enough, had enough parking. This property is on the rail line for our employees who live in West Oahu. And we potentially also could base 1 or 2 ambulances out of this facility, as well as our administration, to bring much-needed EMS services to the Kalihi kind of airport area. I must say, when I met with the committee, I was impressed with the work that the chair did and others on studying this with us and asking the questions you did, because the due diligence we did that took 3 or 4 city departments, and you went through all the kind of same questions we did without the army of people we did. So I appreciate the hard work everybody did here and the hard questions we were asked. But we feel, after looking at many, many different sites, this is a good fit for us for many reasons, and will save us significantly and save the city money in the long run for this move. And that was the reason we're applying for this PIM. And with the money in the budget, that gets approved for next year, we could be in there within a year or 2.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for Director Island? Seeing none, thank you again. Mr. Clerk, are there any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 165 and Resolution 23-100 CD1 has been adopted. Councilmember Say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that Committee Report number 166 and Resolution 23-106, Committee Draft 1 as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This is adopting a revision once more to the public infrastructure map for the primary urban center development plan area. For the general public and for the members of this council, this particular area is known as 560 Halekauila, where our state credit union building is located on Halekauila.
Thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Is there anybody else who wishes to testify? Aloha, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Aloha, my name is Kelvin Hulehe. I'm a Konahike. Welcome, members. All these lands that you guys taking or using for whatever, it's all illegal. And they say about follow the aloha. Aloha, well, there's aloha law in place. And aloha law is what? Legality and judiciary. So who made the law anyway? The Queen? I think so. But anyway, that's who are standing for the Queen today. And I get evidence about the annexation. I'm gonna pass them out to you guys the next council meeting. And all these map, all these lands, it comes under allodial. So when I'm going to present all this kind, you guys got to do you guys homework about all this land that you guys using, which is illegal, you know. The Hawaii is no more justice, no more rights. We've been stepped on, shoved under the ground, and genocide. So today I standing up, I still living. I had 4 cancer, but I still stay. And I'm going to still stay with the Queen, and I still learning about the Queen. And I'm going to educate you guys while I'm getting educated. So, and thanks, aloha. Live aloha, kapu aloha, walk with aloha. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Aloha, welcome.
Konoiki. The annexation was nothing but lies. Proof through research. Number 1, separation of power. Letter from Daniel K. Inouye. Covering doctrine, political question, Jolene Costa. Number 2, U.S. Department of Justice memo that the U.S. have only 3 to 12-mile limit from the continent. How far we are away from the continent? 2,000 miles plus. Number 4, no annexation by Williamson Chan, University of Hawaii. Number 5, United Nations, Alfred M. Desires, fraudulent annexation, research findings. Number 6, by Dr. Desires, we have international immunities. Now, if we have international immunities, you people get no jurisdiction of us. Breach of neutrality law of 1854 is documented. This is why the Kingdom of Hawaii exists today. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to testify?
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the council members. Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support. So the acquisition of these properties is so that the city is planning to do something good with these properties. For example, for Resolution 23106, it's the acquisition of 560 Halekawila in the Ward Kaka'ako area, and it will be to provide a city office space for employees. In the special zoning meeting from May 30th, there was a discussion about this property and then also the property from the previous resolution to provide perhaps medical care to the community, to help the community. So when they acquire these lands, it's to build things for the people and to help the people because that's their responsibility and they carry out their responsibilities very well. So at the state level, actually, I'll just pause there. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you very much. CR 166 and Resolution 23-106, Committee Draft 1 has been adopted. Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that Committee Report number 167 and Resolution 23-107, Committee Draft 1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
Adopting once more a resolution to the public infrastructure map for the primary urban center development plan area. Would you like me to share with the general public where this particular site we're acquiring?
Yes, please.
Okay. This particular site will be at 222 North School Street for the Department of Customer Services Staff and Operations. It is where the Central Pacific Bank data house or data operations are located.
Thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, I have one in-person testifier.
Please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young testifying in strong support. So about the discussion for the special zoning meeting in May 30th, it was brought up that there may be a need for ambulatory services and medical care, especially in the Kalihi area, and how in the TOD plans, the seniors wanted this. And there was, from the director.
Point of order, Chair. Can I have her direct her testimony to the 107, which is regarding the Department of Community Services Senior Resource Center?
Senior Resource Center.
Yeah, that's the one in Liliha.
So this from the DCS staff and the operations.
Yeah, just want to make sure you're, because I know you have your testimony ready, but just want to make sure you switch the paper.
Okay, so this will be for the operations to be relocated and relocated from the current office locations at Kapala Mahale, and so we are in strong support. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to testify? Seeing none, members were in discussion. Noting no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 167 and Resolution 23-107, CD1, has been adopted. From the Committee on Budget, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I move that Committee Report 146 and Resolution 23-102 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Cordero for the explanation.
So this relates to a transfer of funds within the Honolulu Fire Department.
Thank you very much. I do believe we have a member from the fire department here. Would you mind just explaining to the public what we're doing here? Aloha and welcome.
Good morning, Chair, Waters, council members. Kevin Mokulehua, Acting Assistant Chief, Honolulu Fire Department. So the transfer of funds will cover our Fire Operations Division funding from our current expense in the amount of $24,000 to our equipment category for fiscal year 23 budget, as well as $12,300 for the Planning and Development Division from our current expense to our equipment category. For the Fire Operations Division, this is to cover shortfall to procure 2 personal protective clothing dryers for our fire operations. For the Planning and Development Division, this is to cover shortfalls in grant-funded award. This would cover our 2 items, weather packs for our hazardous materials units, and the other item would be for our light rescue apparatuses. So we had shortfalls in the grant award, and we needed about $12,300 to cover the shortfalls in the award. So I'm here to take any questions you might have about either one.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Noting no discussion, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 146 and Resolution 23-102 has been adopted. Members, moving to the top of page 11, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 147 and Resolution 23-103 be adopted. It relates to the transfer of funds for the Department of Emergency Management.
Second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered or in-person or unregistered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion. Noting no discussion, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 147 and Resolution 23-103 has been adopted. Moving to the bottom of page 11 from the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that Committee Report number 151 and Resolution 23-57, Committee Draft 1, as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This is granting a special management area use permit to allow the construction of a new one-family detached dwelling at 5699 Kalanianaole Highway.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion. Oh, I see that we have Director Don Takeuchi Apuna present. Would you like to say a few words?
Aloha, Chair, members of the council. I would like to object to the condition on parking that's in the SMA. We made this objection during committee hearing. The reason is that we don't believe that parking is part of access. We did not analyze parking as part of the SMA, so we don't believe we should therefore require a condition without that analysis.
Mr. Chair, do we have a short recess?
Yes, short recess. Okay, members, we are reconvened. We are on the bottom of page 11, Resolution 23-57 CD1. During the recess, I was told by Director Apuna that she is withdrawing her objection dealing with parking. Thank you very much. Members, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero? Oh, sorry. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina? Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say?
Aye.
Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 8 ayes, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. CR 151 and Resolution 23-57 CD1 has been adopted. To the top of page 12, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 153 and resolution 23-83, committee draft 1 as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This resolution authorizes exemptions from certain requirements relating to the Pohukaina Commons Affordable Rental and Mixed-Use Project located in Kaka'ako.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have anybody wishing to testify?
Mr. Chair, yes, we have 2 persons registered.
Is Chris Delaney here? Actually, that's on
No, we have,
23-87.
Clyde Hayashi and
Hello, welcome. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair. Chris Delaney with Pacific Resource Partnership, in strong support of Resolution 23-83. This project will create 625 homes affordable to individuals, families, and other households between the 30% to 100% AMI. The project will open up a portion of Kaka'ako that is not easily walkable by creating a pedestrian space that welcomes residents and visitors alike with large sidewalks and open space. The project will also stimulate our local economy by creating construction jobs for Hawaii residents, paying them a living wage with benefits, providing economic stability for workers and their families. So we respectfully ask your favorable decision on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Ms. Delaney? Mr. Delaney? Seeing none, thank you so much. Next, we have Chloe Ishii followed by Nathaniel Kinney.
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not responding.
Okay, is there anybody else from the audience who'd like to testify? Oh, I see Nathaniel Kinney. Aloha, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Nathaniel Kinney, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. We are in support of the resolution. This is, again, a transit-oriented development of affordable housing in the center of the urban core, which will provide many units to help young families and individuals get affordable housing in town. And we are in strong support of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, is there anybody else wishing to testify?
Mr. Chair, we have a Nikhil, I'm sorry, Kurana.
Aloha, welcome. On the Pohukaina project?
I believe I was registered to speak. Just wanted to double check if it was this item or the next.
This is the affordable housing rental mixed-use project in Kaka'ako.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Okay. I just want to provide context for City Council providing exemptions for project by bringing up the Ku'ile Place development that was passed earlier in the year. They passed an exemption allowing the building height to be 43 stories, which is more than 200% the legal limit in the area. They're adding 1,670 cars onto Kapiolani Boulevard. They're displacing 130 families. These are a lot of very concerning things that City Council is letting happen through these exemptions. And because of Section 201H, it passed in 45 days. A lot of tenants who live there are just finding out as of yesterday, as of 2 weeks ago, as of a month ago about this development. I'm very concerned about public hearing for these kinds of exemptions. Maybe this project is good, maybe it's not, but are we actually engaging the stakeholders who live there? I don't think so, because all the tenants here with me today only just found out about this project, but the developers and City Council have known for a long time. So we're requesting that these kinds of exemptions have actual public hearings with actually engage working class people who cannot make it to these meetings because it's at 10 in the morning. So that is our request. We will be back to talk about Ku'ile Place with council members individually. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else wishing to testify on the affordable housing project in Kaka'ako? Members, we're in discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Along, please proceed.
James Monaco Senior, concerned parent, grandparent, great. You know, council, this is what we're looking for. 100 or so families, and you're saying they're gonna 600? Can't they put those 100 or so families in there? Isn't that possible? I mean, 100 or so, and you know, every time when we look at affordable, come on, gang, affordable should include these people. If not, we're going to have 100 or so homeless families. That's what we're looking at. Compared to 100 or so families that have homes right now, compared to 100 or so families that won't be having homes in the future, please, let's work with these guys. Let's give them a home, because they already have a home. If not, they're going to be sleeping alongside the road somewhere, and that's not good. It's up to you folks. Please help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Seeing none. Members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. This question is for the applicant. Oh, yeah. Or whomever. Okay, so I know that this is not related, what was just testified isn't related to this project, but it does, of course, like, well, first off, what is the property that's currently at this location, if you could share?
Currently, it's I think it's a construction yard and then the Fisher Building.
Oh, it's okay. So, but let's say there were current units. What would you do in that situation to provide outreach? As you've heard that, I know separate projects, but like in that manner, what would you do for current projects that have current tenants?
Okay, as long as we're clear, not applicable here for this one.
I understand that.
Typically, the process is we do go through a relocation concept and understanding who is living there and providing them ample time and providing them rent forgiveness in order to provide them the time to relocate to another comparable location. Through rent forgiveness, and it's typically we do 6 months plus. When we have situations like that, it allows them to save the money that they would otherwise be paying it in rent in order to facilitate any impact of cost for relocation, starting with time and then providing some resources there.
Okay, thank you. And would you be able to explain why we go through the 201H process, or if that could be at us by one of the city departments?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Why we go through this 201H process?
Why we go through the 201H process? So for the developer, if they want to take advantage of certain waivers not be subject to certain requirements, and they go through this process, and in the city process, we review. This is an HHFDC process, so they'll review, and I think there's some community hearing component as well.
Okay, and it's required by whom again?
The process, so it's the 201H process is under HRS, Chapter 201H. And so depending on the financing, they will first come to the city and see if they qualify. If they don't, then they can go to the state through HHFDC for that process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Director Puna, so just to confirm, so 201H is a state law.
Yes.
Okay, and so applicants can apply through that state law process, correct?
Correct.
And then through that application process, there will be a resolution that comes to council, correct?
Yes, for both the state and if they go through the city and they qualify under the city.
Okay, and then if the council doesn't take action, automatically approves the project anyways, right?
I believe there is some type of, drop dead provision.
Okay, 45 days. Okay, appreciate that, Director. Mo, could I ask you a quick question too? And then just quickly, Chair, I might ask Housing Director to come up too, because I saw she maybe wanted to say something. So Mo, when we're talking, this project starts at what, 30% AMI?
Correct.
What is that? Like, what does that rent look like?
Oh, boy.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Oh, no, I don't have that. So there's two categories. There's 30 to 60%. That's, I believe 30% is as low as $24,000 a year income, but I'm going off the top of my head. We can definitely provide that. And then the other category is 80 to 100%. Two things in the process, just following up on the question. The 201H does not mean there is no community outreach. The 201H, despite that it's state law, there is community outreach. Community outreach has been done. In this specific project that I can speak to, we've sent over 5,000 mailers. We had a neighborhood community meeting. We made sure that the elected officials were aware. Elected official attended the neighborhood community meeting. They sent through their own flyers about our own town hall meeting, in addition to a neighborhood meeting. So despite that it's state law, there is still a public hearing process. It has also went through 2 city zoning committee meetings that were public hearings. So there is definitely always a room for input by the community, regardless whether it's state law or not. As to the concept of the 201H, it goes beyond simply exemptions. We understand that housing is expensive and delivering housing is expensive. And it's not, and to deliver housing that has restricted rents for 62 or 75 years, it's not about coming with the gap financing from the state or the county, but it's about reducing cost. And part of reducing cost is the goal of the 201H by providing certain exemptions so that as a village, as a community, we can come up with the solutions, not only for the 30 to 60%, but those that are 80 to 100% educated, have jobs, but are leaving the state because it's not that they cannot pay, they cannot find a place to pay. So this is a balanced equation of not only coming up with the money to pay for it, but reducing the cost. And it has to work both ways. 201H helps reduce the cost, which is an important factor beyond just regulations.
I appreciate that, Mo. And then, Chair, if I may just ask Housing Director to come up as well.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mo. Aloha and good morning, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kia Aina, honorable members of the City Council. It's been about 2 months since I've joined the city. My name is Denise Iseri Matsubara, and it's an honor and a pleasure to come before you today in my new capacity as the Executive Director of the Office of Housing. I don't want to speak for the state, but I did come from HHFDC. There is a process, and it involves the community, and normally the developer takes it to the neighborhood boards in the evening to discuss their project and invite feedback from the community. So there is a process that involves the community. For this particular project, though, the reason why I'm here voicing our strong support is because this project serves the missing middle. The missing middle is really our gap income group. This is our workforce. It's our teachers, it's our medical technicians, and it's our first responders. They make too much to qualify for the traditional low-income rental, but not enough to rent or buy at market. So this is one of the few projects that received the Tier 2 rental housing revolving funds under a pilot program under the state. And it's meant to finance moderate income rental family housing for 80 to 100% AMI. So when you asked about the low income up to 60% AMI, that's about $78,000, $79,000 a year for a family of 4. So for this rental housing, we're looking at $104,000 to about $130,000 for a family of 4. Projects like these can't get financing under the traditional LIHTC private activity bond program, so they must find alternatives to fill the gap between the price to build and then the cost to build and the price that they can rent the space out at. So it's a different approach that government should really support and look at, given the fact that traditional low-income rental housing is way oversubscribed. Developers have to wait years sometime to actually get the financing, and this is exactly the kind of investment that we, as the city, can do to help keep the production pipeline going. So this is why I'm here, and I'd also want to speak on the next project as well, Chair. Thank you.
Any follow-up questions, members? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm right, but is someone from HHFDC here too?
Well, Denise
Oh, no.
used to be the executive director.
So I just want to, because I think Councilmember Say mentioned he was the first state person to ever come before our council in the last 3 years. So I don't know if you have a position on this. And process, and please state your name for the record. Please press on.
Thank you. My name is Albert Palmer with HHFDC. Yes, we support this project. This is a project on state-owned land where we issued a request for proposals. And we have no further testimony at this time, but are available for questions.
Okay, are there any requirements relating to, like, okay, I understand that this is just a construction yard right now, yeah? And is there any requirements beyond just the particular parcel that it affects, but neighboring parcels by HHFDC through its process?
For this in particular project, portion of this land is going to be reserved for future use by Department of Education, and the remaining portion is used by the developer. So in that sense, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you. This question is actually for HHFDC, so sorry, don't run away too fast. This is also a separate question from the project that we're discussing now. This is an overall one, because the project we've discussed now, I've been part of the community outreach for it, and we had a town hall meeting in Kaka'ako, so I was very happy with that outreach. But just in general, because we had some folks asking about another project, I know HHFDC, in implementing the 201H rules, there is a requirement to do a public meeting and a number of other sort of outreach activities. I think it's 153725. Is there any intent on HHFDC side to maybe revisit that, to broaden those requirements, and just make sure the public feels like, you know, they've been given enough notice?
Yes, thank you. That I'm not aware off the top of my head, but I can bring that question back and get back to you.
Thank you. I actually have a question for Denise, or you. Thank you very much for your explanation. Just want to be clear, Resolution 23-83, CD1, we're talking about an affordable rental project in Kaka'ako, right? And currently, that's a yes, right? You have to speak out loud for the cameras to pick up.
I'm sorry, the question was?
The Resolution 23-83 CD1 is an affordable housing project in Kaka'ako.
Correct. So
Thank you.
it has tier 2 rental housing revolving funds, as well as they're going to do a LIHTC project on that.
Thank you. And this current project is, you know, where there's a warehouse, right? Where the old Fisher Hawaii is, right?
Correct.
Okay. And under Hawaii revised statutes, the legislature set this law, not the council. Hawaii revised statutes is set by the legislature, right?
Correct.
And it's 201H, section 201H, right?
Correct.
Which requires that if this council doesn't act on it within 45 days, it's automatically approved, right?
I believe that's how it reads.
Okay, so if we don't have a hearing here, the developers get all the benefits that are required by state law for the city to give to them, right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And this applies to all the 201H projects, folks. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that if the city does not act, it's automatic. It's automatic. Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion, members? Councilmember Say, followed by Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, state for the record that this particular project is a great project. Let's be honest with ourselves. If you look at the resolution, it states for the record, Mr. Chair, these are, the 625 are all rentals. Starting off for 21 units for 30% or below, okay? Then you have 21 units at 50% and below, 150 units at 60% AMI or below, 86 units at 80% or below of the AMI, and the balance of the 342 units at 120% and below. Let me state for the record, Mr. Chair, HHFDC has 140 AMI as their ceiling. This council and this county has addressed it at the 120% AMI level. So we are trying to focus our attention for those who at least can afford a rent. So I'm very proud of this particular project. But if it wasn't for the state in regards to the second tier funding of the housing unit revolving fund that they have applied for, the developer and the applicant may not have financed this particular project. And that's the key. Like what Mr. Mohana stated for the record, we are trying our very best to find sources or pockets of monies that can subsidize low-income rental housing. That's the goal. Nobody, as far as developers, will want to, you know, just have all market, but they will have all market if they don't apply for these, and we will be stuck because we will not have these type of units. So that's why the 218, which is a state law, is correct. And I have stated for the record at the neighborhood boards, yeah, this 45-day deadline makes it very difficult for the council. And we made a request to the legislature this year, if you could increase that 45-day to 60 days.
Or more.
Or more, but that particular measure died. Transparency and openness, I think this council has done its best. I've attended the 3 board meetings where we had the other project presented. The key is transparency, openness, and communication as we move into the future. But I wanted to say thank you to the council members and you for giving me the opportunity of learning about zoning, the land use ordinance, and how it interrelates with the state. And that's why I am in strong support of this measure, whereby 625 units will be for 120 AMI and below. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I move on to Councilmember Tupola, can we have Mr. Duker, can you please explain, Councilmember Say talked about 30% AMI, 50% AMI, and 60% AMI. And during the hearing on zoning, I thought you did a very good job explaining exactly what kind of jobs people would have that make 30% AMI or 50% AMI, just to put it in concrete terms so that folks can understand who we're building these homes for.
Thank you. Excellent question. I don't have the slide with me that we presented at council that day, but these varying levels from 30% up to 100% vary from people who are working at the hotels, staff at hotel staff, beginning all the way up to beginning management levels. These are school teachers, firefighters, first responders, people that work for the DOE, not just teachers, but people in the administrative levels as well. But as Mo had mentioned earlier,
that would
these
be
are
at
hardworking
60% AMI. But what are we talking about when we say 30% AMI?
30%, from my recollection from that chart, was primarily hotel workers, was kind of that entry-level staff, house cleaners, people that are working as valets and things like that.
People making about $20,000 to $30,000 a year is what we're talking about.
These people are struggling to provide for their families and find homes where they can live in.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much. I don't have a question for Mr. Duker, but thank you for bringing that up. So in our district, we do have a few that are in the 30% AMI, but very, very, very few. In fact, to even try to provide housing at that level is very, very hard. So I thank them for having that category in there. And again, my comments are confined to this project and not any other project, but I have to say nice things about these developers, because part of what High Ridge Costa did in my district is the high-rise that we have in Kapolei, which provided hundreds of low-income, and I'm talking really, really low-income. We have a Kupuna side, we have a Ohana side, and recently we had a community meeting where people were just angered, you know? They wanted better service, they wanted more security, they felt like they needed an association. Okay, now as the developer, you don't need to come back. You don't need to come back and say, oh, hey, are you guys liking this building we bought? But they were still there. So with the management group, Mr. Mohana himself was in that meeting while people screamed and yelled and calmed the crowd, and actually took some steps towards better security and actually addressing the fact that we need more services in that building. So I just want to say that I view them as a developer that is not going to build and walk away. They're going to build and then they're going to care about the people that are in there. Because when we're talking about really low affordable housing, we're talking about the great need for services, after school programs, truancy care, maybe social work, maybe some counseling. So I wanted to say that part of this project also requires that they have a component that's given to the DOE for education. And I really hope that this can go to a charter school that has a 501c3 component that can get a tax exempt free bond and get a building up. We need more buildings for our charter schools who are meeting in tents and have no facilities. So I feel like, especially in this area where there was no building, we're not displacing people, we have a developer that cares about the people that live in that that building, we could possibly get a charter school up or a building for an educational facility. I think this is a win-win. It's very hard to find a win-win, I'll say that. It's very hard to find the right number, the right affordability, and the right people and programs there. So I just wanted to say that I wish them the best with Pohukaina. It's not my district, but seeing as though I've had interactions with these gentlemen, I had to say that this particular project, I have high hopes for, and I think that they're going to do very well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 153 and Resolution 23-83 CD1 has been adopted. Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that Committee Report number 154 and Resolution 23-87, Committee Draft 1 as amended, be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This one is authorizing the exemptions once more of the 201H from certain requirements relating to the Kaka'ako Block C affordable and market rate housing and mixed-use project in Kaka'ako.
Thank you very much. I do see the developer present, as well as Don Takuchi Apuna, Director of Department of Planning and Permitting. Mr. Carr, would you like to explain your project?
Good afternoon, Council Chair, Waters, members of the Council. I'm here to ask for support for Resolution 23-87 CD1. Kahuina is I consider it a demonstration project utilizing the tools of HRS 201H-38 as well as the city-county tools in order to provide relief, waivers and exemptions on designs, parking, setbacks, in order to enable us to deliver a broader range of affordability. So Kahuina will have 2 towers, a 43-story tower and a 32-story tower that will comprise in total of 861 units, of which 60% of all those units, a total of 516 units, are affordable to households earning 70% to 140% of the area median income. The condos will be offered to first-time homebuyers who don't own any other real estates, are qualified Hawaii residents, and give them an opportunity to buy a home at far below the fair market value. We are also providing for 124 rental apartments within the 32-story tower, integrated with the entry-level condominiums. And it would not have been possible to build these rental units that will serve households earning 70% of the area median income up to 100% of the area median income. 70% is a single person household earning $64,000 a year and paying $18,000 a year for a 1-bedroom apartment, including utilities. So as you can see, we're building for the local demographics, for our community. I like to say that, 80 to 90% of I know this, 100% of our renter households probably represent 80% of our workforce. But we're building this for our local community so that we can avail the much needed housing inventory so that people will stay in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Carr? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. And just in a general, Mr. Carr, just would like to know about specific outreach that you do within your projects.
I'm sorry, would you repeat?
Oh, sorry. Just as a general question regarding the type of outreach that you seek out for your project.
Sure. So we have a nonprofit service called Komahale Services. That is, our executive director is Pamela Whitty Oakland, who was the former Department of Community Service for the City and County of Honolulu. So she runs our nonprofit, which provides outreach, enrichment services to 9 of our rental properties on 3 islands, consisting of nearly 2,000 units. More recently, this body approved a resolution for a bond execution on the purchase of Mauna Kea Towers. We provide access to computer classes. We have programs for our kapunas with respect to nutrition, computer classes so that they can do telemed, exercises. So really provide services and enrichment. We also have a program to collaborate with them if they so aspire to become homeowners for financial counseling, economic literacy, and home ownership counseling for those who would become first-time homebuyers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? I just have one quick question. Had you not taken advantage of the 201H program, under the HCDA program, like any other of those buildings, it's possible that these properties could be built for luxury. This is not luxury, this is affordable.
Correct. In fact, that's why we opted with the support and endorsement of HCDA, whose policy is that if you build a condo project, they must have 20% of the units set aside for sale for first-time home buyers that earn between 100 and 140% of their immediate income, with a mean of 125%, which is exemplified in, say, the Ward Village. 20% of the units are required to be affordable. In this case, utilizing this powerful statute that was created by the legislature in 1976 allows us to provide, ask for relief of waivers of building codes, ordinances, policies, and rules that enables us to lower the costs and make it feasible, that allows us to reduce the pricing to serve households at low, moderate income families. And so without this powerful statute, we would not be able to provide the housing that we have in the past and continue to do so, and provide for 3 times the amount of affordable housing compared to HCDA's policy, which is 20%. In this case, by utilizing this tool and the city's tools for affordability and feasibility, those enhancements allow us to provide 60% of these 861 units to affordable households.
Thank you very much. Any follow-up questions? Members, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Mr. Carr. I had a question, and thank you for proposing the rentals. You mentioned the 30%, and I know when we met, you mentioned also the resources, the education to get those, because the goal is to be a homeowner. That's the prime goal.
Correct.
But with so those who get in at the 30% AMI or even 60%, at some point the goal again is for them to save up, and as they grow in their income, they could move on into more permanent housing, but they wouldn't be required to.
No. So the 30% AMI categories, which is a single person making $26,000 a year, paying $650 for a 1-bedroom apartment. And we built that on the corner of Kona and Pikoi, Hale Kewalo. Those, to enable us to reach that deep affordability, we're using the Section 42 4% low-income housing tax credit program along with private activity bond financing. And so it's limited to households earning 60 down to deep affordability of 30% AMI through the gap financing provided by our legislature through the conveyance tax. 50% of the conveyance tax monies are set aside to fund this gap financing program, also known as the Rental Housing Revolving Fund. The beauty of these types of projects, especially for young singles or couples or families, is that if they meet the income limitations to move in to an apartment and qualify, as their earning power grows and they get promoted, they don't have to move out. They can at least start to save money as earning power grows for a down payment to become a first-time home buyer. And that's what the beauty of this program is. And we encourage households to move up the housing ladder, because that's the American dream, to become a first-time homeowner and to take that equity as it grows to buy a home. And we've seen the benefits and have gotten many letters of gratitude and appreciation. And it's very gratifying for us to do that, to help, our families here, to see them, build wealth through moving up the housing ladder. So no, they do not have to move out, although as they all aspire to become homeowners. And the difference also too is the rents are limited in increases that are tied to the annual HUD median income publications. Whereas most renter households renting a investor-owned condominium, their rent will go up based on the market and because of scarcity. And so many times their incomes are not keeping up with the annual increases in rents. And that's where people get displaced.
I see. So as a, let's say, thank you for sharing that. Let's say a renter increases that person's income and that grows, but they're not required to move out, yet they're making more than what the rent is designed for. Is there a problem now because they're not required to, where they're stopping other people who would be better qualified from moving into this apartment or property while they should be moving on and hopefully purchasing but not choosing to?
Correct. So we've actually developed a proof of concept program, and this is modeling a HUD program for households that earn 80% of the area median income. If they voluntarily apply and for this program where they take homeownership counseling, financial literacy, and develop a budget, as they save money, HUD will provide a dollar-for-dollar matching grant of $30,000 towards a down payment of a home. And so in the 2022 legislature, our nonprofit that's managed by Executive Director Pam Whitty Oakland, we got an appropriation of a $300,000 grant to enable us to develop and follow this program. That, because what we found is 10% of the renter households in our communities earned in excess of 100% AMI. So we're hoping that this program will induce them to enroll into a financial literacy program, to home ownership counseling, get on a program so that they aspire and save money, and we will match dollar for dollar up to $30,000 that they can use towards a home purchase.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. You know, we've met, and I know that we have other rental properties, and with the housing issue is the crisis right now is such an issue here on our island. I do support this. I think hopefully we can, again, incentivize more, like you said, those working towards becoming homeowners, not just for themselves, but also for our county, because how we generate funds here is a real property tax, and so we would need people to invest in that, or to generate funds that way. So as we look at these, I hope that we can continue to support projects that will also incentivize that. So thank you, Mr. Carr.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing now, we also have, thank you so much. We also have two other registered testifiers, Chris Delaney and Clyde Hayashi, on behalf of George Paris. So is Chris Delaney available? There he is.
Yes, aloha Chair and Council members, Chris Delaney with Pacific Resource Partnership. In strong support of Resolution 23-87, this is another great project, affordable housing in this project, 516 affordable units. And it's also a good project because it too will be creating construction jobs that pay a living wage and benefits to the construction workers so their families can afford and live in Hawaii and to stimulate our economy. Also, this project is part of a broader vision for Kaka'ako by creating a walkable live, work, play community where our local residents can thrive and raise their families. So we respectfully ask for your support on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Clyde Hayashi. Aloha, Clyde. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kiai, and the members of the council. I'm Clyde Hayashi. I'm testifying on behalf of T. George Paris, Managing Director of the Hawaii Ironworkers Stabilization Fund, in strong support of Resolution 2387. You have received Managing Director Paris's written testimony, and I also wanted to make a few additional comments. Kauina Block C is another piece of Kamehameha School's Kaka'ako Master Plan neighborhood, which will result in an urban mixed-use community, which is providing workforce and affordable housing for local residents, and with conveniences of dining and shopping options close by. And it is also along the future rail line. Kauina will produce construction jobs for local construction workers like the members of my union, Ironworkers Local 625. But projects like Kahuina are especially positive because it not only provides jobs, but will give them and their families an opportunity to buy or rent a home in a project that they help build. We strongly support Resolution 2387 and the exemption it provides for the project. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, is there anybody else wishing to testify on Resolution 23-87 CD1?
Mr. Chair, we also have Nathaniel Kinney signed up as well.
Please proceed.
Again, Chair, members, Nathaniel Kinney, Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters, in support of yet another transit-oriented development project that's providing more than adequate affordable housing in the area, and utilizing all the tools, the regulatory tools necessary, using both city and state incentives to get this project done. In support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify? Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and council members. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES in support. Kamehameha Schools has selected Stanford Car Development to redevelop Kuahina. Please forgive me if I pronounced it wrong. Meaning the crossroads and intersections. The 3.66 acre block bordered by Cook, A'ahi, Coral, and Puhukaina is projected to serve 859 residential units, with more than half of the units designated as workforce and affordable housing. This is the developer's fourth major project in the Ward Kaka'ako area, including Kehau Place, the 43-story, 423-unit mixed-use condominium and townhouse complex that opened up in 2017. Hale Kewalo, an 11-story, 128-unit structure, and Hale Kawila Place, a 19-story, 204-unit structure. Both Hale Kewalo and Hale Kawila Place offer modern, affordable rental housing to Hawaii families in the Ward Kaka'ako area. So we are in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to talk? Please, Mr. Manaku. Aloha.
James K. Manaku, senior contemporary grandparent and great-grandparent. You know, I've noticed we're going to be building a lot of buildings, yeah? Who's going to build all the infrastructure? Is it us, the taxpayer? And then, you know, I'm a subsistence practitioner. I depend on the ocean and the mountains, yeah? And I'm wondering, how many buildings we're going to be building, because, you know, there's a lot of waste that's going to be going into the ocean. How long before the city is going to be shutting down our resources? Because, you know, that's a lot of waste that's going to be going into the ocean, gang. And that's going to be cutting off the waste for our future generations, not just my future generations, but all of our future generations. So have you folks taken that into consideration? And I hope you folks do, because like I said, it's not only my resources, it's going to be all of our resources. So please take that into consideration. And then please take into also consideration that all of that waste, there has to be infrastructure built. So please make them build those infrastructures, not the taxpayers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, please proceed.
Aloha mai kako, Alfred Kakuna Maderas Koyunoa, Noaina Maiao. I was going to keep quiet. I was waiting for other bills and resolutions, but Stanford Carr, the developer of desecration and displacement, came up and spoke up, so we got to speak up. There's no buildings that you ever did make that was made for affordable living, especially for Hawaiians, Kanaka like myself, and you guys use our names and our olelo within your buildings, but none of them. You displaced our people in Kaka'ako that was buried in our aina. You displaced our people in Wailea, in Maui. I get multiple locations that you've done so, Mr. Stanford Carr. So there's nothing that's new about these developments that we are not used to as Kanaka Maoli. And it'll be continuing, it seems, because people don't really care about us in our own home. Sad to say. So I'm coming as a person that's, how are we gonna get affordable living when there's only wealthy and poor right now? There's no in between. You guys talking about numbers, 30%, 50%, 60%. Well, we're losing people 30% every single year from Hawaii, moving to Vegas, California, elsewhere. You're not making affordable living. You guys building mini metropolises around these little cities to investors so you guys can make more money. Your Fort development in the area, infrastructure underneath has been bad. The sewage, the piping, the water's been poisoned. You guys gotta understand that. Fix underneath first. Take care of the aina before you start talking about development that caters to not us as Hawaii people, but outside people. That's what happens in Kaka'ako. Look around. And that's the reason why Haku One was stopped for Oha, because big money will always overprecede local people and Hawaiians like us.
Thank you.
Aloha mai, my name is May. I wasn't going to speak, but then I just thought about the development that Mr. Carr had up in Makaha Valley. So how can you call that affordable when I can't afford it? I am a Kanaka Maoli. I was born and raised here. I worked hard and continue to work hard and pay all these taxes, increases, and yet I can't afford your development. You say 30%, but what is the price? The affordable price that you're charging these 30% worth of people. So Mr. Carr, you gotta go back to the drawing board and really sincerely think about the people of Hawaii. We cannot afford your development, even for the low income. We're priced out of paradise, and that's what Yamtongi was talking about, exactly.
Aloha, everybody. There's one thing that I heard when he spoke, and he said there was a minimum of $65,000 per person, well, 64 and some odd change. When you calculate that on a full-time job, that is $31.25 an hour. Can somebody please tell me where the average local person who resides in Hawaii is making $31 an hour? They're not. That is not affordable. What I also wanted to ask is how much of the occupancy, the percentage of the occupancy will actually be local people that already reside in Hawaii? What is gonna happen when you have Section 8 involved and you bring other people from other states that are considered affordable that Section 8 will cover for them? That still takes away homes from the local people who are already here. Our homeless is at an extravagant rate. I worked for the census in 2020. I went out and spoke to the homeless people. There's a lot of veterans out there. There's a lot of local people. There's a lot of children. There's also a lot of transient people, which is off the subject, but transient people who were sent from other states to Hawaii, and we, the taxpayers, are paying for it. Please take that into consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this matter? Seeing none. Members, we are in discussion. Oh,
Chair.
I'm sorry.
Could I offer just a few comments? Denise Sari Matsubara, Office of Housing. I just wanted to point one thing out for this project because it addresses the demand for both home ownership and rentals. And according to the latest SMS housing study, the city needs around 22,000 units over a 5-year period, and about 47% of that demand is for for-sale units. So the difference between for sale, the demand for sale, and the demand for rent, which is about 53%, is only about 6 or 7%. So this project fulfills a great need. And the demand for housing, the point I want to make, is along a continuum of income levels. And to keep that pipeline of production going, we need projects exactly like this because the investment from the city, at least on the exemption side, is very small. It's about less than $4,000 a unit. When we go into low-income rentals and the other rentals, you're talking about $100,000 to $200,000 per unit of subsidy that is required. So yes, both are needed, but my point is the demand is for a continuum of housing. And so support like this for these types of projects are very necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, members. Any further discussion? Councilmember Tupola.
Mr. Carr is here, correct?
Pardon? Mr.
Yeah,
Carr, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, aloha Stanford. Thank you for being
Hello.
here. Okay, so obviously my district was mentioned a little bit, and this is not about that area. For a lot of us that represent rural areas, the only way to keep the country is to try to get housing and development in the core, right? So Kaka'ako especially is very sensitive area because of everything that is there, and of course Kamehameha schools and some of the efforts that they've tried to put into there to try to keep it, although it's become something that many locals, are not even in or around that area. So I just wanted to give you a chance to respond or maybe make some comments on that.
Well, with respect to Kaka'ako, the legislature created the HCDA agency to oversee the redevelopment of the 400-plus acres, and they floated the bonds to fund all of the underground infrastructure, wet and dry utilities, drainage, sewer, water, sidewalks, in order to create a redevelopment district to invite developers to come in to build the necessary housing within the urban core. So this is where government took the lead under HCDA to front load all of the infrastructure that we saw construct during the 80s. With respect to, we've built nearly over 5,000, nearly 6,000 units over our 34-year career. And I'm proud to say that more than half of the units we've constructed, both rentals as well as for sale, have been affordable. But affordable is an abused term because what's affordable to one person may not be necessarily affordable to another. But I will say, 31 years ago, we started building in Kapolei, and we built 1,000 units out there. Our starting homes was $90,000 for a townhouse, and a single-family home was $175,000. That was an entry-level for sale under the HFDC 60% inclusionary affordable housing program. And we're proud to have built what we have built over the years. And we've gotten many letters of appreciation and gratitude from many of our communities that we've built, which amount to probably 30 or 40 communities on 3 islands. So thank you.
Thank you. I thought it would be fair to allow you to make some comments on that. And I do hear both sides.
Sure.
And thank you for saying that the word affordable is abused, because really it is. It's just indefinite in definition and really very subjective to whoever is saying the word. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Which is why we correlated with area median income as defined by this U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, members. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 154 and Resolution 23-87 CD1 has been adopted. Members, we've been going for a little over 4 hours now. I do anticipate we probably have about 6 more hours to go. That's why I'm suggesting we take a break for lunch. I want all of you to be nourished enough to keep your energy up, to make sure we listen contently to the rest of our bills. Any objection to taking a lunch break at this time? I'm open. If you guys want to keep going, we can keep going. Okay, we'll take a break. Thank you. Let's come back at 1:30. Is 45 minutes enough? 1:30, members. Thank you. We're in recess.